Apple just rolled out some wild new health updates. Their watches now can alert you about high blood pressure that you might not know you had. And their new AirPods Pro 3, they can measure your heart rate through your ears. Sounds like sci-fi.
Blood pressure low. Blood pressure critical.
But I'm about to tell you that even though Apple has FDA approval, doesn't mean that it's accurate. As an oncology pharmacist, I'm going to walk you through every one of these features, give you my rating, and let you know who I think these products are for and who should walk away from them. First up, we have the Apple Watch. I'm gonna give you the answer right now. If you're a healthy adult and you want to keep a close eye on your blood pressure, then this product might be right for you. But if you're someone who's already diagnosed with high blood pressure, or if you have low blood pressure, then these new features may not be as helpful. And here's why. High blood pressure nowadays isn't just a disease for our grandparents or our parents. It's becoming more and more common in younger people. According to the American Heart Association, high blood pressure now affects 1 in 8 people between the age of 20 to 40. This is potentially due to the increase in obesity, poor diet, lack of exercise, or just genetics, but whatever the cause, the result can be the same. If we leave high blood pressure untreated, it can lead to heart attack, stroke, kidney damage, or a bunch of other really nasty things. But the bigger problem is that most people in this younger age group don't even know if they have high blood pressure. I mean, I am in this age group, and when was the last time I went to my doctor's office and asked to have my blood pressure checked? Probably never. So Apple launched this new feature on their Apple Watch Series 11. It can monitor for blood pressure just by you wearing this watch, and it can send you a notification if it detects high blood pressure. Now, how does that even work without having this inflatable wrap that squeezes your arm? As a pharmacist that works in the hospital, we know that the gold standard is to have a cuff that wraps around your arm. We don't even recommend those wrist blood pressure monitors because they're not as accurate. Because the artery we test in the wrist isn't as accurate as the artery that we use in the upper arm. We even have a 24-hour blood pressure monitoring where you're strapped to this blood pressure monitor for 24 hours, and every 30 minutes or so, it will measure your blood pressure. Actually, one of my friends who's 2 years younger than me was getting repeated high blood pressure readings at her doctor's office, so her doctor sent her to do this 24-hour blood pressure monitor. So I was obviously skeptical because for this watch to measure blood pressure, it has to use completely new technology without temporarily squeezing your arm and cutting off circulation. And I'm going to try to explain this technology to you as best as I can. How it works is the watch needs 2 things, a light source and a light detector. The light source will shine on your skin, and as you know, some lights will get absorbed and some of it gets reflected. And when the light detector detects the amount of light that's absorbed, it can tell us specific details of the human body composition under that piece of skin. This technology is called photoplethysmography, or PPG. Photo means light, plasma means volume, and graphy means recording. And as we can tell from the name, one of the details this technology can detect is blood volume. And as our heart beats, the speed of the blood traveling under our skin changes. And with complex algorithm, models, and calculations, we can now estimate our blood pressure without using a cuff. Apple then takes these raw PPG data, plugs them into their new machine learning model, which they've trained using their Apple Heart and Movement study. And then finally, an algorithm will decide whether or not the Apple Watch will send you a high blood pressure notification. Now, there are 2 caveats for this. One is that you have to wear this watch for more than 30 days because it will take the average over 30 days of readings. And 2 is, it will never actually show you what your blood pressure reading really is, like that numbers we see on a regular blood pressure machine. All it does is it will send you a notification when your blood pressure is high. This technology sounds new, but it's actually already being widely used. For example, like a pulse oximeter. It's this little device that you clip onto your finger to test for oxygen saturation level. I'll talk about this in a little bit because Apple Watch can also test for oxygen saturation levels. So after reading all of this, I now have a better understanding of how it works, but I really want to know what FDA said about their safety and effectiveness. And to do that, I actually read into Apple's FDA approval letter. And this is where things get a little bit more interesting. So Apple Watch hypertension notification function has been classified as Class 2 under the FDA devices, which means it's a moderate risk device. There are 3 classes in total. Class 1 is low risk, Class 2 is moderate risk, and Class 3 is high risk. Those will be devices that can support or sustain human life. And as you can probably guess, Class 1 and 2 devices don't have to go through as stringent of a process as Class 3. Most of what they need to do is compare themselves to a pre-existing device that's already on the market and show that they're very similar to that one. In Apple's FDA application, they compare themselves to this already approved device called VIS-HCM. And VIS-HCM is a software that predicts a different kind of condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, not hypertension. Hey, we know we test for different things, but we're both software that takes readings from devices, we're both non-invasive, and we predict diseases in healthy adults. And they got approved. So, good for them for getting the approval and proving that they're just as effective and safe as this previous product. But I wasn't totally convinced because just like all the drugs that we see on the market, they've all had their FDA approval. But does that mean every single drug is good for you? Nope. So I pulled up the original papers published by Apple and read their clinical human trial data. And I gotta say, the results are really fascinating. According to Apple's own research about accuracy, their sensitivity result is only 41%. This number is a bit concerningly low because that means out of 100 people that actually has high blood pressure, it will only notify 41 of them. The other 59 gets missed. But on the other hand, they have a 92% specificity, which means that out of 100 people that don't have high blood pressure, 92 of them will not get an alert. Only 8 people will get an alert, which is a false positive. So in terms of this, that's pretty good. We're not seeing a lot of false positives. And even for those 8 people that got alerted, this alert can still promote awareness in these people, and maybe they should go talk to their doctor to get it checked out just in case. After reading everything, I feel like I have a lot more questions for Apple. For example, how will it know when to alert for different patient categories? For someone healthy and young, we want to keep their blood pressure less than 120/80. But for someone who's 80 years old and already taking 3 or more high blood pressure medications, we don't want to be as aggressive and we might be happy if their blood pressure is less than 140. Does Apple know to make a difference when to send those alerts out? And according to Apple's paper, it says it's detecting blood pressure while we're sitting still. But does it know that even though we're sitting still, we might be talking, eating, drinking, smoking? All of these things we're not supposed to do when we're actually taking a blood pressure test. So my overall reading on this is maybe a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's a great idea to alert those people who haven't really been keeping an eye on their blood pressure. Maybe they want to because they know they have family history or they've been told that they're on the borderline, but definitely don't use this as a diagnostic tool. Oh, and it's not proven for people who are less than 22 years old or for those who are pregnant. If you want more of an in-depth review of this Apple Watch feature, let me know in the comments. Now, I said I would come back to the oxygen saturation function on the Apple Watch. Honestly, I think this is fun to play with, maybe cool to show your friends, but I wouldn't rush out the door to buy an Apple Watch just for this function. Because if you're a healthy individual living at sea level, we really shouldn't see your oxygen saturation drop below 95 or even 96. What is cool though is that it uses the exact same technology that's in the pulse oximeter, which is the standard of how we measure oxygen saturation. And if you remember, the technology is called PPG and it uses a light source. And in this case, it uses 2 different light wavelengths to detect changes in the deoxygenated versus oxygenated hemoglobin. And with that ratio of light absorbance, it plugs that number into a formula and it calculates your estimated blood oxygen saturation. Moving on to AirPods Pro 3. Again, I'll let you know my thoughts at the beginning. I actually think these are pretty useful, especially if you're someone that uses earphones when you're exercising. Because at this price point, it's much cheaper than an Apple Watch. Or if you're just someone who don't like wearing a watch on your wrist while exercising because it can get heavy or sweaty, I would actually give this an 8 out of 10 because if you're someone who's already wearing earphones for music while exercising, then this could be the only device that you'll need. And monitoring heart rate is actually important. You can tell a lot about someone's cardiovascular health by looking at their resting heart rate, their maximum heart rate while exercising, their recovery heart rate, etc. And in the medical field, we literally have something called a stress test. Well, you would run on a treadmill while being strapped to all these devices, and the machine will give you a comprehensive report of how your heart does under stress. At the previous health center that I worked at, we actually had a stress test on site, and I would see patients going into the stress test room looking all normal, and then coming out just drenched in sweat. Also, if you've gotten this far, make sure you've subscribed to my channel to support it and give this a like if you like topics like this. Yeah, that's right, it's still our friend PPG sensor. And what the AirPods Pro 3 does is it shines an invisible infrared light and it tests for light absorption in the blood flow. And it combines that data with other sensors in the AirPods Pro, like the accelerometer, gyroscope, GPS, and combining all that data with the new AI models on the newer iPhones, you can track your heart rate and calories burned under 50 different exercise types. Even though it uses the same technology, I couldn't find any robust research that Apple conducted comparing these AirPods to traditional heart rate monitors. I would love to read these research, but I can't find them, so if you know where they are, please let me know in the comments. But luckily, there have been YouTubers and reviewers that have conducted their own tests, and just from what I saw, these AirPods seem to be pretty accurate, even with really high fluctuations of your heart rate at really intense exercises and at rest. Now, here's the issue though with PPG technology. A bunch of different things can affect the readings. And this has been extensively reported by Apple itself and also countless previous papers. And we're talking about things like contact pressure, the motion that you're under, the temperature of your skin, and even your skin tone. And for example, Apple has reported that contact pressure has been one of the factors that influences their results. And they recommend wearing your Apple Watch with the right fit. Not too tight, not too loose. What does that even mean? So it doesn't matter if you have the new Apple Watch or the new AirPods, use these as just preliminary results. If you really want to know what's going on with your body, make sure you still book an appointment with your doctor and get a professional reading to confirm your results. Alright, this is just a first glance. I would love to do a more in-depth review, but unfortunately, these have not come out for more than 30 days yet, so I can't use the watch to detect my blood pressure yet. If you want to see me do a more in-depth review and test them for myself, please let me know in the comments and I would love to do one for you. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!